Nobody expected it to end like this. A season that began in doubt has exploded into one of the most electric storylines in tennis. Alex Eala just stunned the tennis world. World number 18, a career high she's never touched before. And now, a twist nobody saw coming at the US Open. She didn't just qualify for the biggest stage of her life, she was handed a wild card into mixed doubles, paired with a man she'd never shared a court with before, and a draw that could send her walking straight into the shadow of Novak Djokovic and Aryna Sabalenka. This is the story of how a 21-year-old from the Philippines went from a quiet academy in Spain to the center of the tennis universe. And it's only just getting started. Stay with us, because by the end of this story, you'll understand why so many people believe Alex Eala isn't just having a moment. She might be building a legacy.
Every great story needs a beginning nobody notices at the time. For Alex Eala, that beginning wasn't in New York or Melbourne or Paris. It was in Mallorca, Spain, inside the walls of the Rafael Nadal Academy, a place where a young girl from Quezon City, born on the 23rd of May 2005, quietly built the foundation for something the Philippines had never seen before. Alexandra Manigo Eala, left-handed with a two-handed backhand, turned professional in March of 2020 at just 15 years old. Think about that for a second. While most 15-year-olds were worrying about homework and friend groups, Alex Eala was already stepping onto professional courts, thousands of miles from home, carrying the weight of an entire nation's hopes on a frame that hadn't even finished growing. There's a particular kind of loneliness in that journey. The long flights, the empty hotel rooms, the relentless grind of tournaments most fans will never hear of. But that's exactly where champions are forged, in the silence, far away from the cameras. Her rise wasn't instant. It was earned, tournament by tournament, on the lower rungs of professional tennis. And then, in 2025, the world started to pay attention. She became the first player from the Philippines to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, and the first to enter the WTA's World Top 100, a breakthrough built on a wildcard run in Miami, where she stunned two top 10 opponents back-to-back. Imagine the disbelief in that locker room. A wildcard, an unseeded outsider, taking down some of the very best players on the planet. That Miami run wasn't a fluke. It was a signal. She reached her first career tour-level final in Eastbourne and captured her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, closing out the year with a career-high ranking. But even then, few could have predicted what was coming, because at that point, Alex Eala was still, to most of the tennis world, a promising name buried somewhere on page 2 of the rankings. Talented, sure, but unproven on the sport's biggest stages. And history was already quietly being written. Years earlier, in 2022, a teenage Eala had won the US Open Junior Girls Singles title, a small trophy that, at the time, seemed like just another step on a long ladder. Nobody knew then that Flushing Meadows would one day become the setting for something far bigger. She later made more history by reaching the second round of the US Open main draw, becoming the first Filipina to win a main draw match at a Grand Slam. So by the time 2026 rolled around, the foundation was set. The question wasn't whether Alex Eala had talent. The question was whether she could turn that talent into something the entire tennis world couldn't ignore. What nobody could have guessed was just how dramatic and how fast that answer would arrive.
Every rise has a moment where it almost doesn't happen. For Alex Eala, that moment came early in 2026, and it didn't look like the start of a breakthrough. It looked like a stall. Her clay court swing was brutal. She fell to Yelena Ostapenko in the round of 16 in Linz. She lost in the round of 32 in Stuttgart to Leylah Fernandez. She was eliminated in the round of 64 in Madrid. In Rome, she gave a valiant effort against world number 2 Alina Rybakina, but came up short in the round of 32. And at the French Open, she suffered another early exit, falling to Iva Jovic in the first round. For a player who had entered the year with so much promise, it felt like the momentum was slipping away. Fans who had celebrated her rise just months earlier now wondered, quietly, nervously, if 2025 had simply been a mirage. There's a particular kind of pressure that builds in moments like these. Every early loss doesn't just cost ranking points. It chips away at belief. It invites doubt. And doubt in professional tennis can be the most dangerous opponent of all. Was Alex Eala just a flash of brilliance from a wildcard run in Miami, or was there something more sustainable underneath? Then came Wimbledon, and everything changed. Eala stormed through the draw with wins over Renata Zarazua and Maya Joint before delivering the signature win of her season, a victory over defending champion Iga Swiatek, to reach the fourth round, where she eventually fell to 13th seed Jasmine Paolini. Beating a defending Wimbledon champion isn't just a result, it's a statement. It told the tennis world in the loudest possible way that the girl who had struggled through the clay season was not fading, she was building towards something. And then, in August, the storm truly broke. At the Mubadala DC Open in Washington, Eala won her maiden WTA title, becoming the first Filipina in history to claim a tour-level championship. But it wasn't just that she won, it was how she won. She dethroned the defending champion in the round of 16, demolished a top 10 opponent in the quarterfinals, dominated a 4-time Grand Slam champion in the semifinals, and then rallied from a set down to beat the top seed in the final. Picture that run for a moment. 4 consecutive matches against elite, battle-tested opponents, and she didn't just survive them, she dismantled them one by one. She entered that tournament ranked 28th in the world. She left it ranked 20th, having jumped 8 full spots in a single week. For a career that had spent months stuck in neutral, this was the ignition point. The doubt that had crept in during the clay season evaporated in a single unforgettable week in the American capital. Alex Eala had arrived, and this time there was no denying it.
Once the dam breaks, the flood doesn't stop. And that's exactly what happened to Alex Eala's ranking in the weeks that followed Washington. What had been a career high of 29 back in March suddenly felt like ancient history. Her live rankings career high reset from 25 to 24 after she reached the DC Open final, powered by a semifinal win over 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka that pushed her total to 1,931 ranking points. But the number that truly stopped people in their tracks came just weeks later. While her official WTA ranking sat at number 20, her live ranking, the real-time reflection of her form, climbed to number 18, a career high she had never touched before in her professional life. 18. Let that number sink in. Less than 18 months earlier, she had been fighting through qualifying rounds most casual fans never watch. Now she was knocking on the door of the sport's true elite. The reaction from fans and media was immediate and overwhelming. Suddenly, Alex Eala wasn't just a feel-good story from a small tennis nation punching above its weight, she was a legitimate threat on tour, a name being mentioned in the same breath as established top 20 stars. Every match became appointment viewing, every press conference was scrutinized for hints about what came next. The pressure of being an underdog is heavy, but the pressure of being an expectation is heavier still, and Eala was now firmly in that second category. Of course, tennis has a cruel way of testing new stars almost immediately, and August brought exactly that kind of test. At the National Bank Open in Toronto, she overcame a second-set ankle scare and a fight back from Caddy McNally, showing the resilience that had defined her breakout summer. She was leading Elena Gabriela Ruse 6-1, 3-0 in the next round when her opponent was forced to retire. But then, in the round of 16, reality bit back. She fell to Belinda Bencic 4-6, 0-6, a stark, uncomfortable scoreline that reminded everyone just how unforgiving the top of the sport can be. It didn't stop the rise, but it added a new layer to the story. Could Alex Eala sustain this level? Was Washington a peak or a new baseline? Every young star who breaks into the spotlight faces this exact fork in the road, and how they respond often defines the next chapter of their career. Then came Cincinnati, and with it, another gut check. She bowed out in the round of 32 of the WTA 1000 event, falling to Amanda Anisimova 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. A tough loss on paper, but by this point, something had shifted in how people talked about her. Losses that once might have triggered doubt were now framed differently, as bumps on the road of a player who was clearly, undeniably operating at a different level than before. The conversation was no longer about whether Alex Eala belonged among the elite. It was about how far she could go. And that conversation was about to get a whole lot louder, because the US Open was next, and it was going to bring a twist nobody saw coming. Here's where the story takes its most unexpected turn, because just as fans were processing Eala's rise up the rankings, an entirely different kind of headline began to spread. Alex Eala wasn't just heading to the US Open for singles, she was stepping into mixed doubles, a format she had never competed in on this stage, alongside a partner she barely knew. For the first time in her career, Eala would compete in the US Open's Grand Slam mixed doubles event, teaming up with Canadian star Felix Auger-Aliassime, currently ranked number 4 in the world. On the surface, it sounded like a dream pairing, 2 rising stars from different tours, joining forces on the biggest stage in tennis. But dig a little deeper and the story gets more complicated, more human, and honestly, a lot more interesting. Because this wasn't a partnership built on years of doubles chemistry. It wasn't even a partnership either player had sought out. Eala herself admitted the collaboration came about a bit by chance, though she said she was genuinely excited for the opportunity to learn from the Canadian. Auger-Aliassime told a similar story. Same agency, and then I think the people in our teams kind of talked and made that happen, he explained to Tennis Channel in Cincinnati. Let that sink in for a moment. 2 of the sport's most talked about rising stars, thrown together not by strategy or friendship, but by a conversation between management teams. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes reality that fans rarely get to see, and it opened the door to real skepticism. Was this a genuine competitive opportunity, or was it simply a marketing moment, designed to maximize buzz around 2 players whose stars were both rapidly rising? There was a deeper connection beneath the business arrangement, though. Both players share ties to the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, the very place where Eala spent much of her formative development. Auger Aliassime admitted he was eager to experience the growing wave of support following the 21-year-old Filipina, saying, "It's a great opportunity because obviously I didn't play last year." There's something almost poetic in that admission, a top 4 player in the world openly acknowledging that he wanted to be part of the energy surrounding Eala's rise, rather than the other way around. Still, doubts lingered. Could a pairing built on convenience rather than chemistry actually compete at the highest level? Would the demands of singles, doubles, and a jam-packed exhibition schedule stretch Eala too thin, right when her ranking and confidence were at an all-time high? Her Cincinnati exit added fuel to that fire, proof, some argued, that the mounting workload was starting to show cracks. And yet, despite the questions, Eala pressed forward, adding the mixed doubles commitment to an already packed U.S. Open schedule that included the singles main draw and the stars of the Open exhibition event. The skeptics had their doubts, but Alex Eala had made a career out of proving skeptics wrong. The only question left was whether this newly formed, chance-built partnership could hold up when the real pressure hit, and in New York, that pressure was about to arrive fast.
And then the draw was released. And suddenly, this wasn't a sideshow anymore. This was real, and it was massive. Eala and Auger Aliassime learned they would open their U.S. Open mixed doubles campaign against the husband and wife tandem of Gael Monfils and Elina Svitolina at Louis Armstrong Stadium. Think about the storylines colliding in that single match. A brand new, hastily assembled partnership facing off against 2 players who share a marriage, a family, and years of on-court understanding. On paper, it should be no contest in favor of experience and chemistry. But tennis rarely follows the script written on paper. The format itself adds another layer of chaos and drama. This is a shortened structure. Sets played to 4 games, no ad scoring, and a 10-point match tiebreak replacing a traditional third set. There is no room for a slow start, no time to find your rhythm across a marathon 3-setter. A handful of points can swing an entire match, which means a newly formed pairing without years of ingrained doubles instinct has just as much chance to catch fire as it does to fall apart under pressure. But here's where the story becomes truly electric. This wasn't just about one opening match. The winner of the Eala-Auger Aliassime versus Monfils-Svitolina clash would advance to face either the top-seeded tandem of Aryna Sabalenka and... Read that again. A win in that opening match could put Alex Eala across the net from Novak Djokovic, a 24-time Grand Slam champion, and Aryna Sabalenka, the world's top-ranked woman. Just months removed from clay court struggles that had fans questioning her form, Eala now stood one match away from sharing a court with 2 of the most decorated names the sport has ever produced. Throughout 2026, Eala had actually played plenty of doubles, a fact that made her jam-packed schedule even more remarkable, and one that quietly reinforced her chances heading into this unprecedented format. The narrative of a directionless, convenience-built pairing suddenly looked less certain. Maybe this wasn't a distraction from her singles ambitions. Maybe it was simply one more stage for a player who, all year long, had shown an uncanny ability to rise exactly when the moment demanded it. And beyond the mixed double spotlight, Eala arrived in New York projected to enter the singles main draw as a seeded player for the first time in her Grand Slam career, a milestone that just 12 months earlier would have seemed almost unimaginable. The doubters who questioned whether she could handle the workload were about to get their answer, live in front of a global audience, on one of the biggest stages the sport has to offer.